What's up, fight fans? We are heading all the way to Sydney, Australia this weekend with some absolutely outstanding matchups. Dricus du Plessis versus Sean Strickland rematch world title main event. This is one you're not going to want to miss. And just for you, to make this fight night even better, I have teamed up with DraftKings to bring you all a great offer right now. DraftKings is giving all new customers $200 in bonus bets instantly after they place a wager for just $5. So don't wait. Download the DraftKings app. Do it right now. When you sign up, use the code SONNEN. DraftKings, the crown is yours. Stay in on the action. Use your $200 in bonus bets for same-game parlays for a shot at an even bigger payout. You can combine multiple bets together from the same fight. If sports betting is not yet available in your state, don't worry. You can still join in on all the fun with DraftKings Daily Fantasy for a shot to win cash prizes. I want you to download the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now. When you sign up, place in at least a $5 wager, use the promo code SONNEN. Get $200 in bonus bets instantly. That's promo code SONNEN only at DraftKings Sportsbook. So I get a report last night that UFC Miami will be Islam Makhachev versus Ilia Topuria. Now, I do not believe that at all. And I pushed back very strongly. But I had a very good source. This is a source that all the time, never wrong. But I think they were drinking. Like, I got a sense in the text exchange that there was some drinking going on. I don't know where to put that. I do not feel that Islam is going to be fighting Ilia Topuria at all. No part of me. Now, if you got in a jam and you were stuck and it was UFC 300 and we got to relive that whole thing, that there is a way that you could get those guys together. But I do not believe that that is accurate. But it does have me thinking about Islam. The number one thing that Islam would like to do is to leave that weight class. Now, he has come out and he has told leadership, he has told his own team, he has told his friends, in as clear of language as he knows how to speak. And frankly, guys, it's not all that clear. Like, I mean, he sees him, so I've got a job to do and I've got a role. And leadership decides where that goes. Like, he's a very big believer that's respectful. That would be disrespectful if he was to tell the decision makers on the second floor of the Ultimate Fighting Championship no to a decision that they had already made. Like, he sees that as wrong. Okay. I like that. I agree with him. If you're the champion and you're in division, you've been given an opportunity. There are certain things that do come up with it, but we don't usually see somebody that honors it to this extent. And I don't want, and we got to be really careful in the sport. Really careful in the sport. The only thing that you will get generally for being willing to do something that other people are not willing to do, generally, the only thing that you will get is asked to do those things more and more times. And that has been like a conflict. Now, many of us we're trying to solve that problem. But you see where that would be the case, right? You get certain champions that will not fly to events and do cameos and do media and do meet and greets with fans. Certain champions, they will not do it. So then you take the champions that will do it and they just get all of those assignments. And you have these guys, these short notice guys. Kevin Holland, but maybe the best example that we've got, but that will step in and fight anybody. Different weight class. Kevin doesn't even get credit for the fact that he changes weight classes routinely. He changes weight classes like Chimaev did early on and like Cowboy did all through his career. You've got Cowboy and Kevin Holland. Nobody else bounces. Not to mention for short notice fights, not to mention against guys that nobody else wants to fight. But what does Kevin get in return? He gets those phone calls over and over to continue to fight short notice, different weights against nobody else wants to fight. Now, I realize that I'm proving my point. But I also think in that spirit of not punishing a guy who's been wonderful to work with, not taking advantage of the respect that a guy shows. I do think it's important at a minimum that you understand Islam has never really called for an opponent. Islam has never really demanded placement. Islam has said, I'd like to leave 155. And it really is important you hear it. Many guys have called for champ-champ status, champ-champ opportunities. I'll use Ilia Topuria right now. That is what he's calling for, as a champ-champ opportunity. A champ-champ opportunity is very different than I would like to leave my weight class. And that's what Islam's saying. That's why it's very important that you hear his message, because he doesn't tell us what he wants to do very often. He sees it as impolite, as a disrespect to Coach Nurmagomedov. So, I really want you to hear that, because how do we get him to 170? Not to mention, I don't think we have a plan at 155. What a bunch of studs and what a bunch of hammers that have come through. But they've done that. I mean, the closest idea that we've got is to go to Charles Oliveira, who has pled with the world, don't make me do that. And if we don't go to Charles, then of course we go right into Sarukian. But again, that would be a rematch. So we're talking about Islam having to go through this a second time with no compelling opponent. So is it the time that he does in fact do it twice, or is it at the time that he retires guys, or is it at the time that you, the audience, speak up and say, we have no interest in Charles and Islam a second time? Like we side with Charles on this, who has said, I don't want to fight him a second time. And I tell you all of those things because if there's ever a time to go to 170 pounds, and by the way, it's not against Blal. Blal, Scott Rachmaninoff. I'm a complete supporter of that, and I'm not speaking around it. What I am speaking to is we don't have an update on Blal. And I try to be careful with what I'm telling you guys because I got information on that. But if there's ever a guy who did not go to the media for sympathy to an ailment that he's got, it's Blal. If there's ever a guy that pulled out of a fight and needed to pull out of a fight, it's Blal. However bad you've heard his condition was, it was much, much worse. I just don't know where it's at right now. Because, see, things do start to get very interesting when you talk about Rachmaninoff versus Islam. I mean, just stylistically, guys, if I gave you an opportunity right now, you get to pick one of these fights. But I'm gonna simulate these because I think they're a lot for the same reasons. If I could give you, or if you had the power to make Bo Nickel versus Chimaev, and think about all the reasons you'd like to see that. Think about in that fight, even before we get to the winner and the loser, the way and the strategies and what that match would actually look like. Okay, now you get to choose that, or you can have Islam versus Rachmaninoff. And Rachmaninoff, who's never been taken down. I mean, just for example, Rachmaninoff, who's never failed to take an opponent down. Well, that sounds a lot like Islam. I mean, just that in and of itself, that's a fascinating match. I can't call for that match. I'm not calling for that match. I won't call for that match until we get some clarity on Blal. But I would kind of I'd like to know where's that timeline look like? Is Islam coming up interim types of opportunity? Like that is a very fascinating match. Islam Rachmaninoff, and then I could keep on going with Islam. Islam and Gary, Islam and Colby, Islam and Leon. Like it is a very interesting thing. It's the only thing that Islam has told us he wants to do, which is leave 170. I just think in the world of requests, for a guy that has been so willing so many times, I don't think it's an odd request. I don't think it's inappropriate that he make the request. He's being polite. It's not a demand. He's not put his foot down and said no. It's very polite. But make sure you hear what Islam is saying. He doesn't do it often. He doesn't currently have an opponent. Whoever the next opponent is between Sarukian and Charles, it's still a rematch. That's a problem. You can't build your legacy fighting the same guys, right? You understand. So it's a problem. I wonder what that fight would look like, by the way. Islam versus Charles. The first time they fought, which turned out to be anything but competitive, but the first time they fought, Islam was a 3-1 favorite. So, what would he be? What would Islam versus Charles be right now? Knowing and based on what you saw. If the first one is 3 to, what would it be? 30? 30 to 1? No, I'm probably being silly. Islam to 170. It's important you hear this request.